So I've got a spiral sliced ham that I'm going to freeze dry the slices. I find they're great for sandwiches, out camping, backpacking, just on a road trip. The slices rehydrate almost instantly, a few seconds in water, and they're ready to use as a sandwich or just as a snack. And dried ham is delicious while it's still dry. So you don't have to rehydrate it to have a delicious piece. So I'll try to trim off as much fat as I can. Then I'm going to stack them a few layers high, 3-4 layers, depending on the thickness, on cookie sheets or baking sheets to pre-freeze and wait for their turn in the freeze dryer. We'll get this trimmed up and as much fat off as possible and then get them on the tray. Cut away any extra fat I can. All right. So anyway, I just keep paring away at it, get just as much fat as possible off, because I don't want that in the freeze drying. Any of these crusty bits, like this area here that's real crunchy, that will that will freeze dry real well, but it won't rehydrate any better than it is right now. So there's really no point, unless you want the crunchy bits. It's great when it's freeze dried. Get those all on trays and in the freezer for pre-freezing. I can put them in Ziplocs if it's not their turn before too long. Otherwise, they'll go directly onto the freeze dryer trays and into the freeze dryer. It's had a chance to completely defrost after the scalloped potatoes. Now get it ready for the next batch, which is going to be ham. We have sliced ham and some chopped ham, or kind of cubed ham. Okay, so here's the water from the scalloped potatoes. What I mean when I talk about a water load, I don't like to have even this much water. I like to have about 6 pounds, which is down around here. So you can see the containers are very full. We've got a lot of water this time. It's about 10 pounds of water. I like to keep the water load down to about 6 pounds. It seems to work very quickly that way. But doing 10 pounds in all these batches, and this one being 12, really pushes it to the limit. It still will get through it, but it takes extra time, and there's just really no need to usually. So usually I stop at about 8 pounds of food in the dryer, unless I know that it's a very dry kind of food, then I can put more. But I'm trying to keep the water load down to about 6 pounds. I'll get the fan out and get this thing set for pre-cooling so we can get the next batch in. It'll only take about a half hour to get it ready for the next batch. And I'm going to just wipe down the seal a little bit, make sure that there's no dust on it. And then dry it off a little bit. Yeah, I could see it looked like there was a little bit of dust on it, and you don't want any dust or anything on the seal. You don't want it to have any excuse to not seal well. All right, so even for pre-cooling, I like to have that ring all the way around, and right now I'm missing a little bit up here. And when it's this warm, you know, the seal gets a little bit stiffer when it's super cold. So when it's really warm like this, then it's real easy to just flex it up so that it's hitting nice tight seal. Okay, we'll get that pre-cooling. So I'm just going to hit the customize on mine. Again, start. The newer ones have so many more settings. They're so much more sophisticated. And start. And I'll close the drain valve. All right, the drain valve is closed. So as soon as that's had a chance to cool to about 0 degrees, 5 degrees, so that it matches the freezers, then we'll get the food in. Yeah, the new machines, they're a lot more sophisticated. You know, they have types of foods that you can choose, whether it's frozen, not frozen. The older machine is all just basically time. So I'm setting the freeze time and setting the final dry time. The middle section, the main dry, is still automatic, and it's 30 hours or until it thinks it's dry enough, and then it skips the rest of the 30 hours. So it's pretty decent, but yeah, the newer software is more sophisticated. As long as this one's running, I'm not going to change out for a new machine or anything. We'll be back in a little while, get the food on the trays. Time to get the ham on the trays. Okay, tray one. Oh, we got the frozen ham. See how close we can get to 1889 on there. I might change that, but that's 1687. Bumped that one up to 1900. So now, on to tray three. Then I'll add some of the cubed ham. So I had to add the gloves so I could break things up a little bit more, as the cubes are kind of stuck together a bit. I want to see if I can get a bit more on there. $18.76, so that's 2.5 pounds on that tray. And tray four. So 1900. So starting at the bottom, tray four. So 10 pounds of ham. There's a good ring around the seal already, so it's sealed. It's ready to go. It's still doing the freezing part for 4.5 more hours, or until it gets cold enough, and then I'll jump past it. Otherwise, it will automatically go into the main dry cycle on this software. On this machine, there's only 3 cycles. There's the freeze, the main dry, and then the final dry. So the main dry is 30 hours long, or until it senses that it's dry enough, and then it jumps past the rest of it and goes to the final dry. I have it set for 9 hours of final dry, and I should probably bump that up, since it's almost always, with 10 pounds I should say. When I'm doing 10-pound batches, I should probably bump that up, because it doesn't get dry all the way in just the 9 hours. So I almost always have to go over, so I should bump it up probably to 11 hours or 12 hours when I'm doing these giant batches. The more modern machine, it seems to take those things into account better than this one did. So anyway, we'll be back in a couple days and take them out and put the next thing in. The thermometer's inside in the ham. Shows that the bottom one's at about 120, 130, about 125, and about 115. So they're all nice and warm. The pressure's really low. It says it's got an hour left to go. So this time I'm actually going to jump past some of the time and check it now, because it's looking good. And then we'll check it in 2 more hours to see if it's already done. Okay, so I'm gonna arrow past that last hour. You can see the pressure was very low, the temperature was up. Get the drain valve open. Okay, the drain valve is open. And we'll check tray one. All right, so 1124. And I'm going to rotate them as usual. So we'll get tray 4 and we'll put it up on top. 1134. And you can see it looks great. And it definitely feels completely dry. Yeah, it's warm. I thought I felt one cool spot. I'm gonna rotate, put it back down here for a second. So I'm thinking, okay, it's very cold in this area where it was clumped together. Yeah, it's not done. So I'll get them spread out more. Double check, make sure I didn't lose anything. Okay. Nope, that's fine. So I'm gonna put this one up on top. Okay, let's double check this one. So checking between the layers. It all seems warm. Yep, all seems warm inside. Yeah, I'm not feeling any cold spots on these, but we know that it's going to take extra time. We're going to have to do it at least twice because that one tray already told us that there's moisture in there. But if any of these don't lose any weight, then we'll go ahead and take them out and bag them early. Yeah, I'm not feeling any cold spots in there. Okay, so that one will go back in. I'll put it on the bottom. Oh, tray 2. Yeah, I feel a little cold spot right here in this one. And tray 3. Yeah, I'm not feeling any cold spots in there, so. And that one feels dry everywhere. So this will go back up and I'll put it on the next shelf up. That one's going to go up. And this other one will bring down. All right. So we can be confident that it's going to need at least one more dry time and then another check. The fact that I could feel some cool spots in there, not really super cold or wet or anything, but I could feel cool spots. That tells me that it's going to lose weight this next go around. So we'll put it in there for a couple hours and then check it again, see how it does. Might take a couple of times. I was hopeful because all the thermometers were showing that it was pretty high. So it's really close. If I didn't know any better, I probably would have bagged it if I hadn't found those couple of little spots. So we'll get it restarted. Close the drain valve. Drain valve is closed. Going to push more dry time. And I did close it. And start. All right, so we'll come back in a couple hours and check it. So don't go away, it'll be just a second. 2 hours later, so time to take them out, weigh them, find out what the current weight is. So the first weight check right now. Then we'll put them back in for 2 more hours and see if they've stopped losing weight. Assuming they lost weight this time, because I'd be really surprised if they didn't, because a couple of them were cold. So we'll get them out and check them. So it's in the last 15 minutes now, the heaters are off. I'll bypass the rest of that. Open the drain valve. So the bottom one shows about 110, next one up about 120, about 132, and about almost 120, 118-ish. So get them out, check them, and I'd be really surprised if they didn't lose weight because a few of them were cold. Okay, so tray 1, 1120. Okay, so that's down by 4. Not surprising. Tray 2, 1085, so only down by 3. And that's 3 hours. So that means they were pretty close. Okay, tray 3, 1105. That's only down 2. And this is the one that I felt some of the cold spots in the big clump areas. And it shows. It's 1126. So that one went down by 8. So that's the big loss one. So we have an 8, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And that tray is nice and toasty. So I think that's a good spot for it. And chances are that's done now. But put it back in and give it 2 more hours to double check everything. Okay, got the drain valve closed. All right. The weight loss was pretty minor considering it was 3 hours and the one was cold to the touch last time. So chances are they're already finished, but I'll give it 2 more hours to double check to make sure I've driven off all the moisture or pulled out all the moisture. I don't know how the correct way to word that. Anyway, I'll put it back in for 2 more hours and double check everything. More dry time. I did. Continue and start. And I'll give it 15 extra so I get a full 2 hours. Come on. Oops. Okay. Be back in another 2 hours. Be right back. It's time to check it. It's been another couple hours plus 6 minutes, so it's been about 2 hours, 6 minutes. It's time to get it out and check it. The data last time suggests that it should have been dry. This is just kind of a formality and double checking it. So let's get them out, see what they look like. Arrow down past the last of it. I'll open the drain valve. Okay, and get out tray 1. Okay, it's 1119, so it's down by about 1 gram after 2 full hours. That looks good. Tray 2. And it's also about 1 gram after 2 full hours. So that looks good. Okay, tray 3. And it's down 0. So it's good. And finally, tray 4. And again, it's been hours more, so it shouldn't be a problem even if it went down very slightly. Okay, looks good. Oh, I better make sure that it's not touching anything. All right, so it all looks good. That's about 1 gram down also. So in 2 full hours, I think we're good. I'm gonna do no defrost. Make it so much quieter. Stop the oil filter pump timer. Okay. I'm gonna get the defrost fan in, get it defrosting right away. We'll get these moved over and then we'll check the time and the power usage. Since they were still down 1 gram a piece, or well, I guess 2 of them were. 3 of them. 3 out of 4 went down 1 more gram, so I'm going to go ahead and use this time for the total instead of 2 hours earlier. But it probably would have been done in 2 hours less if I hadn't taken it out earlier to check it and then have to restart it. Here's the power usage for the ham. It's 23.61 kilowatt hours. I'll reset it and it'll be ready for the next one. Now go over and get things bagged. We'll get the thermometers out of the trays and get all the weights done, figure out what the equivalent weight per pound is now, and bag them. Hopefully 1 pound bags, but the slices will probably take more bags than that. I probably can't get a pound of slices in there. And I really like to do kind of a couple of sandwich size amounts in a bag for the ham slices. Anyway, we'll get them weighed and get them moved into the bags. Tray 1. So we'll get the thermometers out of all of them and get the weights. 1109. So 1109 grams for the tray, the paper, all the ham. So I'll subtract out the tray, which is 755. So 1109 minus 755. So there's 354 grams of ham left on that, and that was 2.5 pounds. Okay, we'll do that with all the trays. And tray 2. It's 1074. So 1074, subtract the 747 for that tray, and that's 327 grams. All the trays were different to start with because of the size of the product. It's hard to get them very even. The only ones that really start out very, very even are things like peas or corn or something that has little bits in it, because then you can really adjust them. Okay, so tray 3, 1096. So 1096, subtract the 742 for that tray and paper. That gives 354 for that one. So tray 4, so 1115. 1115 minus 750 for that tray and paper. 365. All right, so we've got the weights for all of them. And then I've got the net weights. Now we can find out how much. And even if you have 2 trays that started out with exactly the same amount of net weight, and then they end up as 2 different weights when they're finished, that's actually not surprising because, for instance, this part of the ham, well, I don't know if you can even see it on the camera, but this ham is much darker than this one. It was probably in an area on the outside that was cooked more, and so it would have had less water when it went into the freeze dryer. So if you have a tray with lots of the more cooked pieces with less water, it's going to lose less water. So even though they start out 2.5 pounds on each tray, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the exact same amount of water, even though it seems like it's the same product on the tray. So this whole batch ended up with 1,400 grams of ham after it was dried. It was 4,521 when it went in. So if I subtract that, so that's 3,121 grams of water loss. With 3,121 grams, that was 10 pounds. So on the average, and that's what I usually do unless I pre-weigh the blocks like I do in the little pans, I don't know how much of it exactly is any bag's worth. So I just have to do an average. So on the average, it needs 312 grams of water for each pound of the original product. So it's 140 grams of ham and needs 312 grams of water. And so that works out to 452 grams per pound, which is almost exactly what a pound is in grams. I'm going to put some numbers there. So 312 grams, 0.1, but I'm not going to worry about that, equals 1 pound. So that's how much water it needs to get back to the pound. And 140 grams of the dry product is for the pound. And that means 70 grams equals 1/2 pound. I've got some bags labeled, and I don't know what will fit in here. It's batch 531 or 31 of this series. It's ham, and it went into the freeze dryer 6/22. And then it needs water. So I'll fill that in when we find out how much will fit in the bag. First try, let's get a bag filled. find out how much fits in one. For the cubes, oh, I need to put on the slice versus cubes. Now I want up to 140 grams in here so that I'd have a whole pound. So I need to average 140, so I don't want to be too far over, but I don't want to be that far under either. It's amazing, one little piece. All right, so that is 1 pound of the cubed ham. All right, that's excellent. So now I have the batch number, what it is, the date it went in, and how much water it needs to bring it back to that same amount. You can eat it dry the way it is. It's very delicious. The ham, sliced ham and the little pieces, they rehydrate in seconds. They'll tend to only absorb what they need. So if you're just rehydrating them for a sandwich or maybe some kind of, I don't know what other dish, eggs or something, you could just rehydrate them and drain them. You don't really have to worry about weighing them. But if you're putting them in something, and again, I don't know what, some kind of soup or something, and you want to keep the consistency the same, you could add that amount of water with that amount of ham so it's got the amount it needs to soak up to get back to the original. And the fact that there's 1 pound. Aiming for 140 grams. Okay. So I have 4 1-pound bags of the cubed ham, and I'm gonna make 1 more bag of miscellaneous bits. So we'll get this one to 140 grams also. Some more little pieces on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and add any of those. So I'll just add enough of the littlest pieces so that I can get to the 140 on this one. Okay, so a lot of these will make good sandwich pieces. Just kind of looking for any of the small pieces still. And I probably can't get 140 grams of some of those, so they'll have to be different size bag, maybe ½ pound. Okay. Now these other bags will be slices, and we'll find out how much we can put in, because I don't expect that I'll necessarily be able to get a whole pound in. And again, with these, I'm not as worried about the water for rehydrating, because I probably wouldn't rehydrate them that way. I would probably just put them in some water, let them soak up what they need. So it's not the same issue. Okay, I'm going to put that in, call that 3/4. Right, so the 3/4 of a pound needs about 234 grams of water. But again, if I'm using it for slices, I just can run it under water or put it in a bowl of water. It'll absorb what it needs and it's ready to go. I don't really have to weigh that out. Yeah, so if you kind of think of these as for sandwiches, you can see there we go, kind of like that. You get a nice rectangle for a sandwich. So you only need a couple of pieces of this size for a nice sandwich. So trying to get enough for a couple of sandwiches in a bag, maybe even a little bit for 3 or so sandwiches. So that fits nicely, just at a ½ pound. So I'm going to have this, going to do some of them as ½ pounds. It's enough for a couple of good sandwiches. And trying to get them kind of nestled together so that they don't break as much. Okay, close enough. Yeah, so that should definitely have at least 2 good sandwiches in there, really nice ones. Maybe 3, depending on how you stack them. So I'll keep getting those in the bags. I'm going to do ½ pounds for most of the rest of these, and I'll get those finished and then we'll be back. No reason for you to watch all these, is there? And this is for snacking. Quality assurance testing. So the ham is bagged in 13 1-quart Mylar bags. These are the 7 mil Mylar bags with the gusseted bottoms. It's what we use the most of. I'm putting the 300cc oxygen absorber in each one, and then we'll zipper them shut and then heat seal them. All right, so we'll get one dropped into each one of those, making sure that it goes low enough so that it doesn't end up stuck in the zipper. Now these cubed ones, I can kind of tuck them down the side to make sure that they're really out of the way. And I missed one. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That batch had 11. I don't like when they have something different because I don't expect it and it throws me. Okay, but I see one in each one of them, so these are all ready to zipper shut. And I don't want to push out the extra air in the slices because it's going to collapse enough as the oxygen is absorbed, and I don't want to crush up all the slices or break up all the slices. So one for each one of those. So I sealed the bag shut with the remainder, marked what it is, so that I'll know that this is just a bag of 8 now. All the bags have oxygen absorbers and are zippered shut now. Now I can heat seal them. So I'm going to make sure I get very high on the bag. So that'll leave me room for 2 more tries if something goes wrong with this one. So I'm going to do it twice on this first one to make sure it's up to temperature. And you could just turn the machine up and then just hold it for a few more seconds between each one. Okay, nicely sealed all the way across the top, very high. So yeah, there's room for a couple more tries down there, or if you want to cut the bag open and be able to reseal it. And one of these 1-pound bags of cubed ham is enough for a half of a batch of the scallop potatoes. Oh, see, that one looks kind of wrinkly and crinkly. So I do not like that. So I'm going to put it back on here, kind of fold it over it so I can really smooth it out. And then I'm going to hold this side of it and then bring the bar down alongside the fingers and let it cool for a few seconds. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, this second seal is just perfect. The top one was probably fine, but it looked kind of wrinkly and I don't like that. And this one's wrinkly before I start, so I'm going to again kind of smooth it over that seal area. One final thing before they go in the bin, I'm going to put the gross weight on each bag. So if I ever have any water infiltration, any moisture getting in, I'll know right away. I won't have to open them. I'll be able to just weigh it. So 127 grams. So I'll just write 127 grams at the bottom corner of the bag. Now I know what this bag weighs right now, and if it starts to get heavier, I'll know. The cheap set of bags that I bought one time when I couldn't get bags in a hurry ended up getting 3 to 4% of a weight gain. That'd be about, if it were 4%, that would be 5 grams heavier. Very noticeable. Okay, so put the weight on each bag. So 129, and if it's bouncing between, I'll pick the higher number. So as soon as these are all labeled, we'll move over to the bins and get them in there. And we're starting on bin 6 this time. We've made it through the list 5 full times. We're starting on the 6th time through the list, starting again at the top with meat. Did ham. Ham is definitely one of my favorites for freeze-dried. It's so delicious, dry. It rehydrates. Sliced ham rehydrates in seconds. Thin sliced ham, you can put it under the running water of the faucet, and literally 2-3 seconds and it's ready to eat, and it's just delicious. And it just gets better over the next couple of minutes, but it's super fast to rehydrate. It's really good. So anyway, it's one of my favorites. So it's the beginning of bin 6 is the ham. So we'll get those in there. The freeze dryer is already chilling for the next batch. As soon as it gets down to temperature, we'll get the next one in there, which is going to be frozen peas. We just bought a couple of big bags of frozen peas, and we're just going to load the trays with them. So a simple one. Okay, so let's get those in the bins. Another nice big empty bin waiting to be filled with delicious freeze-dried. So by doing the 6 categories, we get a nice mix of different foods. You can grab a bin and go camping. Grab a bin in an emergency. You've got all these categories. It might make more sense for you and your situation to have a bin for each category of food that you want to do, or a bin for each exact food that you're doing. So you might have a bin of apples and a bin of ham. Might be nice to have 100 pounds of ham sitting in a bin waiting to be used. We'll get this in there for the first layer of this bin. Yeehaw! Ham is in there. Okay, moving on. So we got the wipes. Gonna wipe it down after that. Basically, I wipe it down between every batch, or almost every batch, because I'm gonna spill things. Okay, and then let that dry, and it's ready for the next stuff. And if I had moved that, could have seen it when I was pointing at them. It was 1,451. No. It was 4,521 when it went.